Hey everyone, Pastor Bruce here, and happy Wednesday. That's really nothing special about the week between Christmas and New Year's. Coming up on the new year. Can't believe it's already almost 2022. Just realizing, I graduated high school almost 20 years ago. Whew, crazy. Um, feeling old today. But hope you're having a good week. Hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. I'm not even supposed to be in the state of Pennsylvania right now, but we had to bump our plans back because the flu made a round through our house, and that was fun. But everybody's feeling good now. Everybody's pretty healthy, and the kids are good, bouncing off the walls again. So thank you for those of you who were praying. But yeah, so our plans got bumped back a little bit. We'll be heading to Jersey this week instead of last week. So yeah, get to visit some family, things like that. Well, I hope uh, this series has been influential in your life. I hope the Lord has spoken to you through it. It's been a wild ride. We've been in this series for a long time, and I've certainly enjoyed my time with all of you in this series and talking about the good news for the bad news and the reality that there's a lot of bad news out in the world. And our job is to take the good news to people because there is so much bad news. And I love the idea that talking about how it's not just about memorizing some of the good news, but actually learning how to apply the good news to people's specific bad news. Like how does the gospel apply to a situation? It's one thing having knowledge. Wisdom is a totally different thing. And I just love the old adage, wisdom or knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. So greater wisdom is not eating a tomato in the first place. That's not actually part of it, but this has been a great series for me to be reminded and to focus on how important it is for us to be focused on the good news, and to be looking at people that are out there in the world who just live every day without hope, without joy, uh, without the relationship that comes with God. And I don't know how people could possibly do that because the Lord is so good, and the hope that He brings me, the way that I wake up differently because I know Jesus, the way I look at my situations, both the valleys and the mountaintops are totally different because I know Jesus. And so uh, I hope you've considered what that means for you. I know we've used Mark 16:15 many times throughout the series, talking about how Jesus said, and He told them, go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. That's our job. That's the mission we've been given. And this past Sunday, I asked you, how many of you are excelling at that? And I ask again because it bothers me that when people ask a question like that from the pulpit or in a Christian setting, we just kind of think like, oh shucks, like I can't raise my hand. Oh well, I still love Jesus, and we think like we act like that's good enough, and it's not okay. It really isn't okay that we look at the mission that Jesus has given us and we think that we get a pass. Like, oh, no big deal. I haven't worried about that. I never talk to people about Jesus. I'm not worried about people going to hell. Like, that should bother us. And if it doesn't, that should be a real red flag. Like, do we actually know the good news? Because when you know the good news, when it sets into your heart, when you realize just what you've received and being transferred from eternity in hell to eternity with God, you have to want to tell people about that. I mean, I don't know how we can act like we know what it means to go from hell to heaven and then not want to tell everybody that we can find about that. I mean, that we shouldn't have to feel like we have to. Uh, we would feel compelled, like I must tell people about this. It's such good news. People must know about this. And just a side note, that's really what I appreciated about that chosen Christmas series was that people must know. People must know idea, because when you're the shepherd or when you're Mary or whoever you are in that story, when you realize just how good the good news is, it's people must know. Like, and I've got to tell them. It doesn't matter. The one sermon series we talked about how many of you have gone to a training to talk about your favorite restaurant? Or how many of you have gone to a training to talk about your favorite sports team or your political worldview? None of us have. And yet we share that stuff freely and openly, knowing that we're not an expert in the area. We don't know all the facts. And we're okay with that, but not when it comes to the gospel. We feel like we have to be experts and professionals and do special trainings just to talk to people about the greatest thing that's ever happened to this world. So, again, never to discourage you or make you feel ashamed or anything like that. That's certainly not the goal of my talking to you sermons or whatever it would be. If anything, it's to wake us up to the reality of, man, if we don't feel like we want to do this, if we don't feel like we want to grow in this and get better at this and honor Jesus more with this every day, that should worry us. It should concern us. But for those of you who do, you want to grow in this, you want to excel, you want to be able to raise your hand and say, you know what, yeah, this past year has been a year where I made Jesus known, where I talked to people relentlessly about it. I had these awesome conversations about God with many people. That should honestly be, let's make 2022 that year. Let's never have another year where we can't raise our hand to that question, because it is literally the reason we're on this earth. If you are a Christian and you're still alive, that's why. It's to make Jesus known, to tell people about the good news of the gospel. It is not to build our kingdoms and to be happy and comfortable. That's not the goal. And so if that's your focus and you're comfortable with that, I'm concerned for you, because Jesus is so good. He's done so many good things for us. He's rescued us from the pit of hell. And I personally feel compelled to talk to people about it. I want to grow in this area. And so in that respect, I told you Sunday, we're going to plan a number of trainings over this next year where we can discuss these topics and learn, how do we grow in this? How do we grow in the ability to apply the gospel to specific bad news, to when we talk to people that we have, where we're comfortable sharing exactly how we can apply the gospel to their situations, and we're going to many of these different ways. I mean, Sunday we talked about some of the problems that exist in our sharing the gospel, the pride being one of the biggest ones, because I mean that's the reason we struggle with most things, is because of pride, and how we need to learn to not approach people from a place of power or a place of superiority, thinking that we are better than them, or that we're smarter than them, or that we have our life together better than they do. I mean, without Jesus, we'd all be a wreck. So when we approach people, and we shouldn't even approach them as like, well, I have good news and you need it. They don't know they need it, and they wouldn't agree with you in that. It's our job to journey with them long enough that they start to realize, man, there's something more to this person. There's something about them that I want. And that might happen in a conversation. More than likely, it's going to happen over a relationship, over a time period. And so, so pride gets in the way. Our methods get in the way. We have a certain way we think things should be done. We have a certain way we think church should be done. We have a certain way we think music should be done. We have methods for everything. And when we marry those methods to the message, we get confused, because then the methods begin to change, or somebody else says, hey, I have a new method. And we think, oh, hold on, you're compromising the message. And they're not. They're just changing the method. But most importantly, I think we talked about Sunday, is the listening, the ability to listen. And listening not just being about not talking, but learning how to ask the right questions, learning how to engage somebody in a way that draws out what's going on in their heart, what's going on in their mind. And we're going to do some trainings on that as well, because that is truly an art. And I'd like to learn more about it. I hope you want to learn more about it with me, because I think that is the greatest tool we have in evangelism, is the ability to ask questions and pull out who somebody is and where they are and what they're struggling with. Because man, if we can make people feel heard, that does so much for sharing the gospel with people, is letting them be heard and letting them feel cared for. So my prayer for you is you would grow tremendously in this, that 2022 would be a year where many people hear about the gospel because of your engagement in their life, that you would be a gospel presence everywhere you go, and you would grow in that ability as you lean more into the power of the Holy Spirit, as we grow together, that we would be a family, if nothing else, that we'd be a family that engaged our community with gospel conversations, and we cared enough to talk about Jesus with them. So have a great new year. finish out your 2021 strong. I don't think God's done with 2021 yet, so be ready for some awesome conversations even today, tomorrow, the rest of 2021, and then we'll see you in 2022. It's coming up fast. So have a great week. Enjoy your New Year's celebration. Hopefully get together with friends, family, whatever that looks like for you, but I hope you have a fantastic New Year's. Maybe you're going to get some pork sauerkraut, some kielbasa. That's the way to bring in the new year, in my opinion. But have a blessed weekend. Sunday, 10:30 a.m., both here and online, or in person and online. If you're able to make it, please do that. We always love gathering as a family. So have a great week. Have a great New Year. Happy New Year. And God bless every one of you.